In that quiet little town, the terrifying encounter in the abandoned house plunged me into endless fear. I could feel my heart pounding like a drum in my chest, and my breathing became rapid and disordered. I desperately tried to break free from the cold hand, and my body lurched forward, only to stumble and fall to the ground. The flashlight rolled aside in the panic, its faint light swaying in the darkness as if it might go out at any moment. I trembled as I felt around on the ground, trying to retrieve the flashlight, but the cold hand touched my ankle again, and a bone-chilling cold spread throughout my body. Who? Who? Who is it? I shouted in terror, my voice echoing in the empty basement, but only silence answered me. I struggled to stand up, my back against the wall, my eyes fixed on a certain direction in the dark, as if something horrifying might rush out at any moment. At that moment, the faint sound of crying still loud in my ears, becoming clearer and clearer, tears in the rain, as if a grieving soul was telling me of endless pain. I tried to calm myself down, thinking about how to escape this terrible place. I remembered I had some tools in my backpack. Perhaps I could use them to open the tightly closed door. I slowly squatted down, reaching for my backpack. Throughout this process, I remained highly vigilant, fearing that the unknown presence would attack me again. Finally, I touched the backpack, unzipped it, and searched for something useful inside. My hand touched a small hammer, and a glimmer of hope surged in my heart. I held the hammer tightly and turned towards the door. As I approached, I found that the door seemed to be firmly locked by some mysterious force, and no matter how hard I hit it, I couldn't open it. Despair began to spread in my heart, and I realized I might be in a very dangerous situation. Just then, a strange suddenly came from the corner of the basement, like something slowly moving. I turned my head nervously and shone the flashlight in that direction. In the faint light, I saw the old doll actually move, its body slowly straightening, staring straight at me. My scalp prickled, and I involuntarily retreated. The doll seemed to have been given life, slowly crawling towards me. Its movements were stiff and eerie, each movement accompanied by a bone-chilling friction sound. "Stay away," I shouted loudly, waving the hammer in my hand, trying to stop the doll's approach. However, the doll did not stop at all, getting closer and closer, its hollow eyes seeming to hide endless evil. I turned and rushed towards the door again, colliding with it with all my strength. The door remained immovable, and a sharp pain came from my shoulder. I leaned against the door in despair, tears welling up in my eyes. I began to regret my reckless decision to explore this terrifying place alone. Just as I fell into despair, I suddenly heard faint footsteps coming from the stairs. A glimmer of hope rose in my heart. Could it be someone coming to save me? I nervously stared at the stairway, holding the hammer tightly, ready for any situation that might arise. The footsteps grew closer, and a figure gradually appeared in my sight. It was a person wearing a black robe, with a white mask on his face unclear. He stood quietly at the stairway, looking at me coldly. "Who are you? Help me." I desperately asked for help. However, the mysterious person did not respond, just silently watching me. After a moment, he slowly raised his hand and pointed to the approaching doll. I followed his finger and saw the doll had crawled not far from me, its mouth seemingly slightly opening and closing, as if saying something. The mysterious person suddenly uttered a deep voice. "This is your destiny. You cannot escape." After that, he turned and disappeared at the stairway. My heart was filled with fear and despair. I didn't know who this mysterious person was, nor did I understand what he meant. But I knew I had to find a way to save myself. I swung the hammer again and hit the doll. The doll was hit by me and fell to the ground, but soon it got up again and continued to approach me. I kept retreating until my back was against the wall. At this point, I had nowhere to go. Just as the doll was about to pounce on me, I suddenly noticed a strange symbol on the wall. The symbol shimmered faintly in the flashlight's light, as if calling me. I didn't have time to think more, reaching out and touching the symbol. Instantly, a powerful force surged from the symbol, knocking the doll away. The doll rolled on the ground a few times, then it was still. I looked at the symbol in surprise, my heart full of doubts. At this time, the crying in the basement also stopped abruptly, and everything returned to calm. I carefully stood up from the ground, my eyes still fixed on the doll and the stairway where the mysterious person disappeared. I didn't know what was going on, but I knew I had to leave this place as soon as possible. I went to the door again and pushed it hard. This time, the door slowly opened. I rushed out the door without hesitation and ran up the stairs. When I ran out of the empty house, the moonlight outside shone on me, making me feel an unprecedented warmth and relief. I looked back at the abandoned house, my heart full of emotion. This adventure made me deeply realize the power of fear and also made me understand that some places should not be easily visited. However, things did not end there. In the following days, I always felt a pair of eyes staring at me in the dark. Whenever I was alone, the feeling of being watched became particularly strong. I began to doubt whether I had really gotten rid of that terrifying place. In order to find out the truth, I decided to return to that small town and find answers. I returned to the abandoned house. which still stood quietly there, exuding a strange atmosphere. I took a deep breath and mustered the courage to step into the creaky wooden door again. Everything in the house was the same as when I left last time. The old breath and flying dust making people feel depressed. I carefully walked towards the entrance of the basement, my heart full of tensio.